analysis was focused on the available data.
Did you review the complaint that was filed in this case?
Yes, I did.
What about any of the attachments to that complaint?
I reviewed the attachments with respect to a number of the affidavits that or declarations that voters had filed, and also reviewed the report of Mr. Barris.
Have you watched any of the testimony that's been given in this case yesterday and today?
Yes.
Have you watched all of it?
Yes.
So as it relates to the question that you analyze, what is sort of your high level opinion?
My high level opinion is that all of the claims that were made in the complaint about the effects of voter wait times, the claims of disenfranchisement, claims of a disproportionate effect on Republicans and Lake voters, that they are all based on pure speculation, that there's simply no data to support any of those claims, and actually quite a bit of data that suggests that those things actually did not happen.
Okay, let's now discuss sort of the specifics of what you base your opinion on. Are you familiar with reconciliation and provisional vote data?
Yes.
Just generally, what is that?
So in this context, reconciliation data typically refers to comparing data on the number of voters who check in at a polling place and the number of ballots that are cast. Provisional vote data, there are a number of circumstances in which people will present at a polling place, and for one reason or another, there are questions about their eligibility, and rather than turn them away after the Help America Vote Act in 2002, polling places are required to let them vote provisionally. They cast a ballot, and then after Election Day, election officials try to figure out whether or not they were eligible. And if they're eligible, if they find out or conclude that those voters are eligible, the ballots are counted. Otherwise, they're rejected.
And what about reconciliation data? What is that?
Well, that's the comparison of check-ins and ballots, which will provide information if there are people who check in at a polling place. When they check in, they show their ID, they identify themselves, and the number of ballots that are cast, and those numbers should line up or be close.
And did you examine reconciliation and provisional vote data in this case?
I examined the summary data reported by Maricopa County. And
what did that data show?
It showed that there were, I think the numbers are, there were 170 voter difference between the number of people who checked in and the number of people who cast a ballot. And we don't have information about why they were not, or they did not cast a ballot, either a ballot that wasn't counted or a potential walk-off. So that gives us an idea of the number of people who, for example, might have presented at a polling place and because of trouble with the ballot or trouble with the tabulator, simply left without putting their ballot into door 3. I also looked at the provisional vote data, the summary data produced by the county, which shows the number of provisional ballots that were cast in the county.
And what about, did you look at any data about voters who perhaps checked in at one voting location but then didn't ultimately vote there and voted somewhere else?
Yes. So there is a process that voters who check in at a voting center and for one reason or another have trouble turning in their ballot, or there was a tabulator issue, they didn't want to use the door 3. They had the opportunity to actually check out of a vote station and go to or vote center and go to another vote center. And it would also show up that if someone checked in at a vote center and for whatever reason didn't submit a ballot that was tabulated, and they actually left the vote center without checking out and went to another vote center, that's also something that will show up in the data, because then they'll be in the registration system twice, once where they checked in initially and once where they checked in a second time. And there were, and I would have to look at the county report. I think there were 84 people, 94 people who checked out and then checked back in and voted. There were another 120 or so people who checked in and then left without checking out and then cast a ballot at a second vote center. And I think all but 13 of those ballots, or all but 13 of those voters, were able to successfully cast a ballot that was counted.
Okay, so in your opinion, is there any reason to believe that large numbers of voters abandon their efforts to vote after encountering difficulties with tabulators?
Not only is there no evidence that that happened, the evidence that exists suggests strongly that that did not happen.
And I think you mentioned this already, but the voters who perhaps did encounter an issue with a tabulator, did they have another option of how to submit their ballot for counting?
Yes, they could have submitted them into what Arizona calls door number 3, which is just a storage area within the tabulator that the voter submits their ballot, and then it is later either tabulated at a tabulator at a central location, or if it's not readable or there's an issue with the pens or the ambiguity of the mark, it's duplicated and then tabulated. So there was a fail-safe option for voters who could not get their ballot to be read by a tabulator at a vote center.
In your experience with election administration and your work, are things like tabulator malfunction something that can happen in elections?
Yes, it happens. I want to make sure it is one of the most common issues that arises in the work on election day operations that I have studied.
And is it possible for issues with tabulators to occur even when election officials follow best practices?
Yes, it can happen for reasons that are not anticipatable, that can be just sort of machine breakdowns or the sorts of things that are hard to predict.